Hey friends, welcome back to the Above Board podcast. I'm John Kennedy, one of your hosts, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that I'm sure all of you have heard of. It's the saying that if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it. Now you might be thinking, this is such a dumb phrase, but if you really think about it, like it is true, isn't it? It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's true. Why would I put more tasks onto somebody who's already juggling so much? But there's this psychological principle that's behind it. By the way, for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, I'm as I record this, I'm looking at my face and I'm realizing how much facial hair I have. And you're probably thinking like, gosh, this doesn't look like John at all. It's a little different. The facial hair is a part of the aesthetic to a Halloween costume for this week. And my entire Halloween costume is an accessory to my daughter's costume. So if you follow me on social media, stay tuned for pictures from that because that'll be fun. But I think that busy people aren't just good at getting things done because they have this like superhuman energy that they could just get so many things done. There's actually this term for it, which I just learned about it recently. It's called productive momentum. So they don't have superhuman energy, but they do have superhuman focus and discipline. And so that by the time they're already in a state of motion, adding one more task really does not disrupt their workflow. They're like this well-oiled machine. Now, let's be honest, this is not easy to accomplish, especially when you work remotely and or you're self-employed. So I think it's really hard to be accountable to somebody else, like a boss or a manager or a work colleague, but it's even harder to be self-accountable. Actually, I think we can all agree it's just so much harder to be self-accountable. So like for me, it's really tempting after I have 3 meetings in a row. I'm in my home office. I want to go have a snack. I sit at the kitchen table. I start scrolling through YouTube shorts. And next thing you know, 10 minutes go by and I have this brain break. By the way, my kids call them a brain break, which I think is a really awesome term for it. But in the remote work environment, there's no one there checking up on me. I have to like pull myself out of that and go like, dang it, John, what are you doing? Like you're 12 minutes into just like mindlessly doom scrolling on Instagram or YouTube shorts, like get back in there. And I always use my workout analogies. I think, it's like working out without a personal trainer telling me that you're resting too long in between sets. Like you're only supposed to give yourself 45 seconds in between sets. We're at 90 seconds, doom scrolling on our phone. Like pull yourself out of it and get back to it. So it's really hard to capture that productive momentum. It's like a flywheel. Like once you get things in motion, things start spinning. It's easy to keep it going. Constant motion, you got a rhythm. And busy people tend to find a way to tap into that to just keep knocking things off their to-do list. I'm sure you felt this before. Like, have you ever had that day where you're super accomplished? It's not even noon yet. And you're just like, you've knocked like 10 things off your list. I think this is what busy people instinctively do. They build and maintain their momentum. But I want to talk a little bit about, I feel like busy people is a weird generalization. And I want to talk a little bit, I think, about busy people, because what I've learned, I'm going to replace the word busy with productive. What I have learned observing productive people all my life is that they tend to not come to like a screeching halt. So they keep things moving, even if it's small, just little momentum, little progress. This is the type of person that, like, if you see them on vacation, they're waking up early and they're still going to the gym every day while they're on vacation. You actually might even hate this type of person because in your eyes, they're an overachiever, or like insert whatever negative term because you're a little self-reflective about it and you're feeling judgmental about that person. And you don't like how they're, how they're vacationing or whatever. But I bet you that's the first person that you go to when you have something important that you need help with in your life and you need it done right now. So as I'm kind of shifting gears here from busy to productive, I want to go one step further. I believe one's ability to be this type of person is directly correlated to how successful they are in life. And I'll go from busy to productive to the word useful. I think the more that you serve others and be of value to them, the better off you will be. So I was talking to my barber, Kendall, the other day. He owns the barber shop. So him and I like go into these like philosophical conversations every time I go. And we were talking about the type of person that people tend to gravitate towards versus the type of person that you kind of like shy away from. Like you said, a person like, that guy's got bad energy. That gal's got bad energy. I want to stay away. And what is it about those people? And what we concluded was that I think people tend to be attracted to folks that can be useful to them, whether that's like applying in a good themselves in a conversation, or to be able to help, or help somebody or be of service to them, and to be present with somebody. And I think that's an immensely beneficial skill to cultivate in a world that's so disconnected from human to human interaction, and we're far too connected to our screens and our devices. So by this point in the podcast, some of you may already have turned the episode off because you're annoyed with me because I'm talking about being productive and useful to other people, and you're like, oh, this is annoying. I don't like this. And this isn't for you, and that's great. The folks that are staying with me, that are on this podcast, you guys are my people, and I'm talking to you today. So if you're still listening to this, you probably identify with this conversation. You probably know people like this. Maybe you yourself are this way, or you want to lean into these habits and characteristics of somebody that's a busy, useful, and productive person to serve others around you, and also to serve yourself. So, by the way, one little aside, this mentality, I think, is available in all ages and uses of life. So you're probably listening to this and maybe possibly thinking like, oh, this is like, people that are in their build and growth phase of life, and they're trying to network and be useful to others and all that stuff. I can attest firsthand in working with retirees that this mentality serves you well into your 70s and your 80s. Do you think the people I work with that are financially independent in retirement got there because they were lazy and not motivated to help others? No way. There's a direct correlation between their usefulness to others in their ecosystem, whether that's their work, their community, their school, their church, and their financial independence now. And they've maintained that in their retirement. It's not like they retired and they said like, all right, I'm going to be an introvert and sit on my couch all day and not like talk to or communicate or work with anybody else ever again. And I also think, so on that note, there's a direct correlation between their happiness now and how useful, busy, and productive they are and continue to be in their retirement years. You probably thought I was going to say direct correlation of happiness and how much money they have, I bet. But that genuinely could not be further from the truth. Their happiness depends on how well connected and engaged they are within their community. And connected and engagement tends to be, correlated to their usefulness and their productivity and how they're being able to apply themselves in their community. And that's a busy person's MO. So what makes busy people so effective? Well, certainly, and again, let's replace the word busy with productive and useful, but they're great at managing their time. They don't get caught up in distractions. They've got a clear plan, and they tend to be decisive because honestly, this type of person really didn't have the luxury of overthinking a choice. They didn't have the luxury of time. It's their only non-renewable resource. And so they want to manage their time, efficiently. And I actually heard this podcast once. I thought it was kind of a funny anecdote for this, but the person was explaining that when they're interviewing somebody for a new position, they take that person out to lunch, and everything they need to know about that person can be learned by how they order their meal at lunch. Because if they're indecisive and they overthink their meal order, they're likely going to be indecisive and not confident in their decisions for something that's actually important, or a decision that has some implication or has something to do with work. And let me tell you, I used to be the worst overthinker. I used to like look at a menu and it would take me a while to order something. My classic move, if I kind of translate this to work life a little bit, is I'd start an email, I'd rewrite the thing 10 times because it never felt quite right. But when you're busy, you don't have that bandwidth for perfectionism anymore. You kind of get better at trusting your gut and just moving on. And I always use this term in the podcast, like taking a step. It doesn't have to be the perfect step in the right direction. Just taking an imperfect step in the right direction is oftentimes better than taking the perfect step. So on the flip side, I kind of want to talk about procrastination for a little bit, because there's this term Parkinson's law that I can't have this discussion about busy people and productivity without talking about Parkinson's law. But it's really easy when you have idle time to kind of fall into procrastination. I find myself like when I go on a vacation, which is so important to be able to disconnect and unplug and, not, people deal with burnout all the time, as do I. So you got to do things to kind of cope with that. But sometimes like when I come back from a vacation, I really have a hard time like getting back in the groove. And so I don't know if you've heard this term before, but Parkinson's law. And it's this idea that like the work or the task at hand kind of expands to the time that you give it. And so like, for example, if you have a school project and it's due at the end of the semester, it's going to take you all semester to complete it if it's due at the end. If it's due in 2 weeks, it's going to take you 2 weeks. If it's due in 2 days, it's going to take you two days to get it. And so for busy people, I think, or productive people, I think they tend to keep tighter schedules. There's more rigidity around the things that they do to kind of create this natural sense of urgency or focus. And so, like for me, when I'm coming out of a vacation, I look at my full focus planner. I talk about that a lot on the podcast. I've been using this since like 2018. I look at my planner and I try to plan out the week, and I create these deadlines of tasks I need to do just to try to get myself like back in that momentum. And so, something that I think is important in that vein of, or in that concept or idea, is like trying to adopt a busy or a productive person's mindset. You don't have to be busy all the time to have a productive mindset. So I think a few strategies that have worked for me, like I said, setting shorter deadlines, maybe batch working things. So putting similar tasks together, and then, when my brain is in that groove, in that flow state, I can kind of work on those things. And man, oh man, prioritizing ruthlessly. So this full focus journal, and again, I'm not like paid by them, but I talk about them a lot. One of the things that it's really helped me do is I write down the 3 biggest things I need to achieve in my day. Like, so yes, there's maybe 10 to 12 tasks of emails I need or calls I need to return, or things just like the work. But the 3 most important things I need to do every single day. And for me, I feel like tackling those things, I feel so productive because those are the things that move my day or my weeks or my months or my years forward. So, and I found that, by the way, I mentioned working in a remote setting before. I found that doing this and then batch working, so kind of like setting blocks of work focus, and then also creating mini breaks, is just so helpful for me to kind of keep things in motion and keep that momentum going, so that I'm not like doom scrolling too much on my phone. So if you've heard nothing else today, please do hear this. The most productive people aren't just busy for the sake of being busy. They are purpose driven. What I mean by that is they know what they're doing, they know who they're doing it for, and they know why they're doing it. There's clarity that keeps them motivated to keep their plate full. So take some time to reflect on what your own purpose is. It doesn't have to be this grand mission. It can be super simple: providing for your family, helping others, achieving personal growth. Align your tasks with that purpose, and you'll find that staying productive is so much easier. Thanks as always for tuning in today on the Above Board podcast. If this episode helped you shift your perspective on productivity or what it means to be a busy person, please share this with a friend that could use that boost as well. And remember, the busiest people are often the most intentional with their time. See ya.